recording.
There it is. There it is. That's that bell again. You're in the championship rounds with King Amin of Essex, moderated by Jay. This is round 8. We at round 8. How you feeling, bro?
Feeling good. I still got my legs from up under me. You know, my legs are still good. I got my legs in my wind.
All right, that's what's up. Everybody knows, here at the championship rounds, we discussing boxing, news, everything in between, So we're going to get right into it as we always do. We all know we had a big week. We talked about it a little bit. Ruiz versus Arreola. That fight was highly anticipated because of some of the video and all of that. That was in terms of specifically the shape that Ruiz was in. He ended up winning that fight, but not saying controversy, but in terms of, me looking around, you got your own opinion, but me looking around, some people said, it wasn't as an impressive performance as it could have been. Everybody has their opinion. But we here for your opinion. So how did you feel about that fight? And let's just start off with that.
I mean, I think I'm with the consensus, man. I wasn't impressed only because I think Arreola's attitude and Arreola's passion, it was a little unbecoming, unfitting rather. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Andy Ruiz, but hey, listen, that's why I said so coming off a 2-year layoff, I don't want to judge him too harshly, but I'm going off what he said. So, he's being asked questions. And even if a fighter feels like that, coming off a 2-year layoff, man, I want to work off some ring rust. I want to get some rounds. And, they might say as much, but he's, I don't know what percent I'm in, and just kind of, he just didn't really sound too sure, It's like, boys in the hood, let me out, though.
Okay.
He sounded like Trey. He wanted to get out to 6'4".
It sounded like you questioning right here, man.
Yo, man, I don't know if it's Kool-Aid or sangria.
Oh man, listen, man. I mean, was you surprised that he went down in that fight or what?
No, it's flash knockdown. I wasn't tripping off of that. Okay. Again, it could have been nerves. Could have been, Arreola coming in feeling like how he felt again. So I wasn't taking too much off of that. It was just he wasn't really sure of what he was doing. And again, 2-year layoff. I'm gonna give him some credit for that. But he sounded like he was still coming off of the layoff. So when you sound like you still coming off of the layoff and you look like you're still coming off of the layoff, it leaves a little bit to be desired. And I understand why people were underwhelmed with his return.
I mean, I get what you're saying, bro, because, and I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but like in terms of the ring rust, obviously boxing is, a physical and a psychological game, but you talking about him being kind of ready up here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, the ring rust kind of thing is something you only gonna kind of overcome that with experience, at least from my perspective. But you got to be ready. You know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying. Any significant surprises or during the fight or in terms of the flow, in terms of how each fighter came out, technically wise or otherwise or anything like that? Any surprises?
No, Andy, he's always had the hand skills. Andy always could box, condition. He seemed to be in much greater shape. You didn't see either guy, Arreola. You didn't see either guy gassing or looking too tired. He's a heavyweight, so they're going to be big guys. But nah, I didn't see anything surprising. Like I said, the only thing was just kind of, he looked I guess the description, he looked a little bit tentative. Everything was tentative for him. Okay. And he looked very unsure. And I don't know if it was unsure of getting a rhythm or unsure of if he wanted to do this anymore or unsure of, something, his glove didn't feel anything. He just didn't seem so sure. And he didn't sound like he was sure.
Well, I mean, that, I don't want to say it answers my next question, but, I kind of know what kind of reaction I might get from you then. So my next question was going to be, what do you think might be a possible next opponent? Because in terms of just looking around, I'm not talking about worthiness or anything like that. It might just be hype, but they were kind of throwing Deontay Wilder's name around. So is that something that they just throwing fuel on the fire? Is that a fight that could really be made that would be interesting? Or is that just something that they were throwing out for people like me to kind of look at and take a second look about?
And I think Andy Ruiz Sr., his father might have mentioned that as much. But listen, that Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder flattens him.
Right.
That's not a fair fight. We're not talking about that. That's why I said people have to be very careful about looking at Wilder's, some of what they consider, I guess, his position as far as, the heavyweight division, whether he chooses to either fight it out in the courts or in the ring.
Right.
But that's different from saying that he's ready. Andy Ruiz is ready for that. Andy Ruiz cannot hold up. Again, flash, knockdown, or not. He is not holding up to Deontay Wilder, that Tuscaloosa, Alabama power.
I mean, listen, it didn't
to that shit.
It didn't appear to pass the smell test when I read it, but you know what I mean. That's why I asked it to you like that. You know what I mean? But you can't blame him, especially his pops, for anybody for trying to kind of, for lack of a better term, just kind of make some noise for their fighter, right? Generate some momentum for their fighter. So
an opponent that might give them that sort of interest, because in their minds they might feel like he's beatable. Dillian White.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that because again, that Andy Ruiz that beat AJ, him and Dillian White get it on.
Okay.
The Andy Ruiz that I saw against Chris Arreola, Dillian White, roughs him up because of the mentality, the kind of guy Dillian White is. Again, coming back off a loss, he's coming back talking about this is maximum violence. He's not talking about I'm about 70%, I'm 80%,
right.
many percentages. He's talking about maximum violence.
But again, we talking about ready up here, right?
It's a different thing. Definitely a different thing. So yeah, I don't know who he would fight, because his handlers, his management or whoever, if they were smart, try the Dillian White fight just because it helps Dillian White and it helps Andy Ruiz. It still keeps him in the conversation. But if they want to cash him out, if they want to retire him, you give him the Deontay Wilder fight.
Hey man, listen, it ain't no problem with shooting darts, but you got to shoot them in the right place. You know what I mean? So you can hurt yourself. All right, so May 1st was a busy night, so we're gonna move to the UK card. What you think of the Chisora Parker fight? What was your general impressions?
Derek Chisora always win even when you lose, because he's just such a dog. Now he ended up knocking Parker down once.
I love those type fighters though, because those are the fights you remember. I was trying to get you to talk about some fights that happened on a Thursday night just because it was a bunch of fights like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Action.
And that's what Derek Chisora brings every time around. So he's in there against Joseph Parker. Now, after that knockdown, Parker started laying leather on him. So it was, again, a tough fight, exciting fight. I thought it should have been a split draw. They gave it to Parker. Again, it doesn't hurt Derek Chisora's credibility. It doesn't hurt his standings. He is and will continue to be a great litmus test at heavyweight. Andy Ruiz and Derek Chisora, if they're afraid of the Dillian White fight. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But again, Derek Chisora got so much dog in him. You know what I'm saying? He don't stop coming forward. You got to put him down. Like, he like Terminator in 84. Like, he just walked through walls.
I mean, honestly, in terms of, my humble opinion that, like, listen, the game, action, game needs action. That's why, we'll talk about it later, but, that's why you got Floyd and all these other people doing all these things, right? Because people want action. We got a microwave generation here. So let's move right on down the line. Let's talk about the Chris Eubanks Jr. versus Mark Morrison fight. What'd you think about that? Any surprises?
Yeah, I'm surprised at how much Chris Eubanks Jr. actually looked like Roy Jones. And what I mean by that, he had Roy Jones' chin strap, bro. Like, Eubanks used to have a goatee. He had Roy Jones' chin strap. He had a 97 Roy Jones chin strap. And he had Roy Jones kind of lean, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know. Mark Morrison is definitely a tough guy, tough competitor, and steel sharp and still, because the telecast team seemed to think that Eubank could have got him out of there, and maybe he could have if he would apply the pressure. But I think they both fought each other very, very tough, and Eubank showed some of the tools and some of the things he's working on, and it benefited him to go tough rounds against somebody that wasn't going to stop throwing punches. So, middleweight division, maybe that baits a Triple G into a fight. Maybe one of the Charlos want to jump in there with him. Maybe he gets one of the top ranked guys, what's my man, Murata or Robert Brandt. I don't know. But I like Eubank Jr. I like the fact that not only is he a legacy fighter, he's adopted the some of the techniques of the great Roy Jones Jr. So I'm just curious to see how his career will continue to grow.
All right, a lot of upside there. All right, so let's move right on down the line. You know what I mean? We can't leave the ladies out, of course. Let's talk about Katie Taylor versus Natasha Jonas. What'd you think of that?
Women's boxing stay winning, and that's no bullshit, man. That was
I done seen a lot of exciting fights. You know, so that's no joke, man.
Bro.
Not to interrupt you. What'd you think of the Taylor Jonas fight?
Katie Taylor gave Natasha Jonas problems, and that says a lot. But then towards the latter part of the fight, Jonas was coming on strong, and she was blocking and landing a lot. But I think it was a fair decision. I think Katie Taylor did a thing. I think, again, in the loss, it's just something different. I don't know if it's just the culture of boxing over there. In the UK, a loss don't destroy you like it does in the United States. Okay. Because when I think of Natasha Jonas, I mean, the depth of the women's boxing stateside isn't enough, because if she came over here, I don't know who's in her weight class, but she'd give everybody, I think, in her weight class problems. But, you know, all that's to say, very exciting fight. I definitely appreciate what women's boxing is doing right now.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, definitely needed to do that recap. A lot of, you know, action. So as we usually do, we're going to move to the articles. So, you know, this first one, honestly, obviously a sensitive subject. You know, we kind of talked about this during the week when it happened, just because it was a part of the regular news, and obviously it touched, you know, the boxing world of Felix Verdejo. You know, a lot of people have heard now, charged in the killing, arrested of a pregnant woman found in a lagoon in Puerto Rico, right? So first and foremost, before we discuss it, obviously, you know, I want to send condolences out to the family, you know, because, you know, 2 lives was lost. But obviously I was sick to my stomach reading about this story. But it's something that we got to talk about because it's relevant to boxing. So what did you think of the story in general? Obviously this is a horrific act, but what did you think of the story in general?
I mean, again, horrific story altogether. Everything surprises you, but nothing surprises you. As in, I mean, you know, we've seen this before, unfortunately, with Ray Caruth, not to make these kind of guys famous, but again, it's a football player years ago.
Right.
Paid for somebody to, you know, do bodily harm to a woman, and she was pregnant just because of selfishness. And so, you know, as a fighter, you would like to think, you know, you don't hold fighters or you don't hold entertainers, and at least I think we have to, you know, continue to become clear on that. We don't hold these athletes to a higher regard.
Right.
You know, one thing I did saw that honestly, like, truly disgusted me. I saw a couple people, and they were saying, you know, like, you know, they like, oh man, prayers up for Felix Verdejo, and I'm like, nah. Like, nah, just, you know, if you don't want to touch it, you don't want to touch it.
Right.
But it just comes to, you got to protect women out here, you know what I'm saying? And protect women of color. You got to protect disadvantaged people, man. There's no way you can applaud this guy as a hero. It doesn't matter what he did at the Olympics of yesteryear. Just truly a disgusting human being.
I mean, listen, man, you see, I didn't even see, that's the thing. Former Olympic boxer, you know, I get it. You know, if they want to put it in the headline, fine. You know, but he's accused of murder now. You understand? So that's kind of what people should focus on. And it really, you know, when individuals engage in stuff like that, whether it's Ray Caruth, him, or anybody else, you know, it reflects negatively, right? Because then you have people assigning all these negative, you know, attributes and characteristics to boxers, like they're aggressive and all of these things, when, you know, we spend all this time on here talking about the positive benefits of mental health and all these things, right? So if all of those people, if they were smart, they would be distancing themselves from him, because, I mean, it just makes sense if you have an ounce of morality, but, you know, all the way around, this dude got no bail, turned himself in, they said the day after they found the woman. And I believe she's suspected allegedly to be pregnant with his child, right? So you got all kinds of problems, man.
Yeah.
You know, anything else to say on that?
Yeah, just one last thing, man. I think, you know, and in my mind, I kind of hope that people would understand that this has nothing to do. This is not a reflection on boxing, no more than just using for an example, Oscar De La Hoya's pastime antics aren't a reflection on boxing. It's a reflection on an individual.
Yeah.
These are flawed individuals, you know what I'm saying? Mike Tyson when he was at his worst, you know what I'm saying? Tyson Fury, you know what I'm saying? People that are involved in drugs, you know, underworld stuff. It's not a reflection on boxing. You got bad apples everywhere.
Well, people is responsible for their own behavior, right? That's my personal opinion. You know, now, you know, however people feel about Oscar De La Hoya, what he was doing ain't hurt nobody. He was, you know, what he was doing was for his own personal pleasure or whatever reason we want to describe to it. He wasn't hurting nobody. This dude, his behavior is impacting other people. So as soon as you cross that threshold, you're responsible, you personally. So I don't really got too much more to say about it. You know, people could defend him if they want. You know, I feel sorry for him. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. You know, we got this was in TMZ, ESPN Sports, everywhere. Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul. We all know about this. Which day is this? This is going to be on June 6th. Showtime. Listen, man, this is a big thing. It was a lot going on in that press conference, man. So before I kind of give my thoughts on it, what did you think, man? That's what everybody wants to hear. What you think? What you think?
Okay, so if what some reports are true that the fight isn't exactly set yet, and they're kind of setting the stage and they're throwing out these feelers to see how much analytics it could generate, because the fight was canceled one time before, then they said it was back on. So suppose that's the situation. They say, yo, man, I'm telling you, yo, it's money in it. I'm telling you, well, look, watch, let's do the press conference and that.
Okay.
Even suppose all of that. He could have did that shit with Adrian Broner and had just as an explosive verbal joust.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He could have did it with Keith Thurman, had just of his explosive verbal joust of intellect wit. Okay, you want to take a celebrity realm? Do it with T.I. Right? Do it one-on-one with T.I., right?
Okay.
It's so many ways to create more of an entertaining boxing spectacle than to let the Trumps in.
Okay. Listen.
They the Trumps of boxing, yo. Once you let these motherfuckers in, it's gonna be hard to get them out.
But see, this is all right.
Because motherfuckers laughing at it. They laughing at it.
And see, this is the thing, right? It was a lot going on there, right? Logan Paul, or whatever, he joking about Floyd's hairline, right? Floyd calling him, talking, I guess him and his brother was in the audience. He talked two fake boxers here, blah, 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 blah. And this is my whole point, right? It's an event, but it's a spectacle, right? This is, now, people are going to be very resistant to this. And I'm not even saying I'm in favor of this, but I wrote this down. This is another perspective of what it might be.
Okay.
And you're not going to like this, right? A lot of people are not going to like this because I'm not a boxing purist, but I'm just giving you the real. This might be boxing's version of WWE, the same way Floyd is looking at it, right? In terms of him, a new opportunity and platform for individuals, right, over the age of 40, retired, to still make money. Mike Tyson can do that up there with him and get in there with a celebrity or somebody that's a halfway athlete and put on a decent show. If that's the lane they trying to create, does it take away from, like, you know what I mean? The sign.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a hard stance and say, yeah, the same way, like it diluted when you try to hype white rappers that aren't nice, you hype them up because they're white. That's what I'm saying. They got wrestling for that, Jay. Tyson Fury just did something with Braun Strowman. This is modern day.
This is why
they did that with Big Show. Yeah. They can do that in the WWE. They can go do it in these wrestling federations.
Right.
You don't have to do this in the boxing. Or if that's how you want to sell it between the little old man them, Get Tyson and Lennox Lewis to bite each other again, whatever the fuck they did. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that.
No, you're exactly right, right? And that's why I brought up when you said T.I., I said that's a good example, right? Because that's why I brought up the comparison to WWE, because it's not boxing.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I give a better comparison. Now we got verses. Now we get Triller.
Right.
Now we got a hip hop versus kind of, you know what I'm saying? You start getting these guys that might have, because because man, I told you they already had the guy Gonzo and Bosco 100.
Right.
King Erner, if he actually fight somebody, you know, you get these guys that want to fight and be like, yo, we hip hop guys, we not gonna be shooting each other. We gonna get it out on here. You know what I'm saying?
And that's merging like Fight Club kind of stuff, celebrity boxing, WWE, whatever you want to call it, but like type of, dynamic, and that's all cool. Yo, the problem with this, and I'm not even saying the problem why I think most of you see so much pushback is because you have Showtime supporting it, right? It would be different if they was doing this and it was on some platform where it was an entertainment platform or something. I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, pull me back, right? Because I'm a casual fan, right? But from what I see, the powers behind, not necessarily behind boxing, but the Showtime want to get some of this money too. You know what I'm saying? So as long as you have that, they're not necessarily protecting the sport either. Is my whole point. What is your feeling on that? Because until you have a clear line drawn there, if Showtime is like, yo, we don't want nothing to do with nothing like that, then you might have something in terms of protecting what people are talking about. But they're like, bring on that element. Bring Snoop Dogg on. Bring them all on. That's basically what they're saying. Because they're not going to want to lose money to, what's that other app we was talking about?
Triller.
Right. Because the race is on. As soon as they probably seen them numbers, it's meetings going on. It's in Showtime offices like, yo, who we could get to perform now.
I tell you what, let's see how many motherfuckers are still eating Impossible Burgers in another 5 years.
Yo, you're right. You're right.
The same amount of motherfuckers still wearing True Religions.
It's a fact. You're right.
You get what I'm saying? But boxing will always last if you put quality fights out there. Equality fights. And unfortunately, so Floyd, you go and chase that. Okay, it's money. It's lucrative. It's great business. But for boxing, perhaps not. Then you leave the lane for another fighter to all he got to do is say, well, I'm going to move up a division and fight so-and-so. And he's going to get the boxing, if that's what you want, or you want the money. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But here's the funny thing. As a boxing fan, and this is what I said, we have to declare this as boxing fans. Floyd ain't never give me none of that money. And so because I'm not receiving any residuals off of it, nor am I entertained, it's my duty to object to it and to resist to it.
Yo, I don't disagree with any of your points. The only reason why I even brought any of that is because I was like, my thought process is, this is the reason why it's like, because I don't think anybody in a boxing world would disagree with that sentiment, what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? But when you see this coming out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? This is why. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's like you got the people on the ground. I mean, I'm speculating now, right? But it's almost like you got the boxers, the trainers, the fans. Everybody's like, yo, what the hell is this? You diluting the sport, right? And then the people that pay the boxers, the trainers, indirectly or directly, right? The companies is saying, is supporting that. Everything that the people is against, right? Yeah. Or that nucleus, that hardcore group. So that's why I'm saying that influence, to me, I don't see it going away. Like what you're saying is true. It is a fad, you know, but why it's so relevant or prominent right now, I think it's because Showtime won a piece, bro.
And listen, to your point, I'm asking you from your perspective, which did you hear more about this weekend? The Canelo fight or this Floyd Mayweather Paul fracas?
Mayweather Paul. But let's be fair, right? If we're being honest, Mayweather Paul, but like the Canelo fight is the one I'm more excited about.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like the Mayweather Paul is kind of like, I mean, honestly, like I, you know, I mean, I'm expecting Floyd Mayweather to like put on a show. You know what I mean? I maybe I'm just, you know, but I'm expecting him to kind of fight, kind of not the way he usually fight. I'm expecting him to make, you know, to embarrass this guy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, maybe that's maybe why
He need to
maybe,
come out like Apollo Creed playing "Living in America."
that's what I'm expecting because this is 50-0, right? This is, I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, whether it's an official fight or not. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If that boy come out there and knock Nate Robinson, Floyd Mayweather, it's gonna be 50-1 to everybody on the earth. You understand? I don't care what the records say. If he get Nate Robinson, it's gonna be 50-1 to people like me.
And listen, if that happens,
And it ain't gonna be no rematch.
if that happens, and again, it's I'm just using a clear example, not that I'm advocating, condoning, or supporting, but if that happens, you know what that's like? 2016, November 2016.
Yo, man, what is you doing?
You get what I'm saying?
Is this a in the ring fight?
Nah, I'm saying this is what happened when motherfuckers say Hillary can't lose.
Oh, okay.
Hillary can't lose. It's Donald Trump. Again,
Right.
not because I'm just talking about the impact of it.
I mean,
If he get in the ring, instead of losing, if he's gonna take the chance to lose, instead of losing to Boots Ennis, instead of losing, because that hurt his pride to lose to a welterweight, you would take the chance to lose to that ass clown. You would risk your O to him because it's worth more than money. Again, worth money. He buy $18 million watches. He could take a shit on me, but as a man, I'm just saying, like,
what if Logan Paul decided to come out there, right? I'm not even saying he could do it, but this is his game plan. He's like, I'm gonna come out there, I'm gonna try to bully Floyd, I'm gonna try to push him against the ropes, I'm gonna hit him low, and then try to knock him out. And say, what does he have to lose? No. The impact, if he comes out there and does that, let me play this out for you, and I'll take 10 seconds. He comes out, it takes 2 rounds. He comes out, bullies him, hits him low twice, and knocks Nate Robinson him. Yeah. What is the impact any different? Now, he cheated according to regular boxing rules, correct? Is the impact any different to Floyd?
Yo, devastated. Yo, it'd be like the day Joe Louis lost to Max Schmeling, man.
Right, that's what I'm trying to
do. It runs by, man.
It's not worth, if it's Floyd, it's not worth $15 million for him. You better off, you right, yo, you better off saying sparring, playing around with Adrian Broner.
That's just me, but what do I know?
It's saying it's an
exhibition. I don't buy $18 million watches and $3 million cars. What the hell do I know? I just like boxing. I love boxing, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know, man, but I mean, we'll see, man. But anything else to say on that?
Nah, man. Basura.
All right, so let's move on to the one real boxing story we got that's really about in the ring, you know what I'm saying, which we all kind of is excited about, the Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders fight this week. So everybody is excited in terms of, you know, the super middleweight belts being unified. Canelo had a lot to say, you know, from what I was reading and hearing in terms about possibly his own prediction of putting down Billy Joe Saunders. Maybe he was tired of hearing his mouth. Who knows? Because Billy Joe Saunders had a lot to say too. So what did you think about this fight? And what is your you know, thoughts of each of their styles, you know?
Well, I want to start off with saying one thing about Billy Joe Saunders. For those that are movie buffs, if you want to understand some of the antics he's been pulling off ahead of this fight, if you guys remember the movie Snatch, and you remember the character Mickey, that was Brad Pitt's character. He was what they call the gypsy. That's Billy Joe Saunders. Yeah. Literally from that gypsy culture. Again, him and Tyson Fury are cousins. You know what I'm saying? That gypsy culture is really something different over there, to the point where they've actually insisted that they're a group of marginalized people. I say that to say, again, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. The antics that he's doing, he's trying to rattle somebody that's nerves are very calm. So That's not really gonna work. What it does do for Billy Joe Saunders, it brings the market for him up. So after what happens between him and Canelo tomorrow night, yeah, he'll be some guy that can still fight a Triple G if that fight is available, or Danny Jacobs. Now he's at super middleweight. One of the Charlos or something like that. He'll still be a marketable guy, but and again, not taking anything away from him. It's just that he's letting his reputation about his antics, overshine, what potential ability he has.
So listen, this is highly anticipated fight, AT&T Stadium. 70,000 fans, I think, expected. That's the record. There was some controversy kind of leading up to this point, though. So what did you think about the controversy? I think it was over the ring size or something like that. So
antics, man. Even before then, he started calling out, Eddie Hearn, saying he was being mistreated in certain things. And again, he was probably making actual concessions that as, I don't like the language of it, but as the B side, you got to concede. The A side, right. The prize fighter called the shots. So right. He's probably making some concessions, but he was making a big deal out of it. But more importantly, he had one of his guys come out and actually say it as much and say, yeah, he's going to really turn up the antics, But then on top of that, boom, you start off doing that. Maybe he got smart because by the time he showed up, to the weigh-in and things weren't calm. Things were pretty calm and it wasn't all over the place. Because again, after you keep talking all this shit, you got in the ring and get it in box. Right. You have to end up boxing. So, and Billy Joe is a good fighter. Only thing I can say about him is the same way I would say about Boo Boo Andrade. He doesn't fight as often enough. Billy Joe, his fight schedule sucks. So you don't have nothing to judge him off except for the few flat-footed guys like Lemieux that he fought.
So what I was going to ask is just in terms of what, I was kind of reading, they, say he can kind of use his jab effectively. His defense is pretty more than decent. What do you think he has to do to make the fight interesting?
He can't jab and move off his back foot, and that's what most people believe that his best attributes are, because if he thinks that Canelo is going to come in and try to bull rush and get him out of there, that's not what's going to happen. Canelo's going to come forward, but Canelo's going to come forward but moving. Meaning he's going to be using some lateral movement, and he may think, he's going to stand in front of Billy Joe and, of course, try to hit him, but he's going to be trying to, feint and get Billy Joe to start it off. Billy Joe might try to come in there and pump the jab and get in and out. It's going to be a awkward first 4 rounds. But Billy Joe is going to have to stand still at some point because not creating any sort of offense to get Canelo means you're just trying to survive the fight.
Right.
So if you're just going off your back foot and not creating any sort of offense and not coming forward, you can't be there to survive.
Right. Can't win like that, surviving. So I think I kind of know this answer, but prediction for the fight.
I jumped out the window, and I'm going to stand on it because I said it. Canelo is going to be working a lot on the body. Canelo's not going to be headhunting at all. Canelo's going to be trying to punch this dude all on his hip, try to hit him in the liver, try to hit him all in the ribs, hit him all in the sternum, and just really make him uncomfortable and slow down his mobility. Once he starts doing that, maybe he'll go with the jab to the chest and then start to bring it up top such that, he go from the body, start working up top, get the body back open. Either he could get a knockdown, not knockout, he could get a knockdown off a body shot, or I could see him getting hit with some shit and Billy Joe sitting on his stool like, I can't get up from that. Like, my kidney hurt or my liver hurt. I could see now, if he just go down off the body shot, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me none. Of course, that would lead to a unanimous decision. But again, I would not be surprised if one of them body shots lead a boy sitting on his stool somewhere between the 9th and the 10th round.
All right. Well, I'm going with Canelo. It's simple, man. I believe his prediction. I think he's gonna put him down. I'm not saying he's gonna put him down for good, but I think he's gonna put him down. So we'll see. We're all looking forward to that. All right, as we always do, we going to school. You know what I mean? So it's time for the ABCs of boxing. We've been going in and out doing basic footwork previously, basic boxing steps, but boxers must, master moving forward, backward, left, right, coordination, balance, if they want to have advanced footwork, right? So we're going to kind of discuss a couple different topics and terms and just kind of get your feelings about it and break it down on, the level so we can kind of understand. So we're going to review bouncing, step and slide, step and hop, and shuffling, right? So let's start with boxing, bouncing, just a basic explanation, some of the benefits, challenges of performing that technique.
Well, one thing about bouncing is that it's really a kind of on an offensive note, you might be trying to create a rhythm or give your opponent something to kind of react off of, but you really have to be careful about wasting any sort of energy just bouncing around. Also, if you don't want to be bouncing up, literally hopping up, up and down, you want to kind of conserve your energy and you want to stay balanced. So bouncing can help you if you're trying to, create a different look and bait somebody, try to get a reaction out of them, but you just don't want to be giving too much energy just bouncing around. You want to kind of have an intended purpose for it.
Okay. So let's move right along to step and slide. So, just the basic explanation of what the usage, like when you would use that and what's kind of the benefits or the challenges of executing that movement.
So like if you step in and slide, usually, your lead foot, whatever your stance is, your lead foot dictates the movement. So wherever you move that lead foot, that's where you move the back foot to. So when you're stepping and sliding, what you're essentially doing is you're keeping that distance between your lead foot and your back foot, and you're keeping your stance and you're keeping your balance. So no matter whether you move forward, backward, left, right, you're always moving your lead foot to plant first and then bringing your back foot, within that same distance, to your lead foot. And
Okay.
that's just good movement. And to get a good visual for that, that's when you see, when you're working on that, you got your tape on the floor, you got your cross, or you got your, your pie, or, however you got it divided up, you got a half circle, half moon, and you're just working on your footwork. You're trying to develop that instinct to move and keep your feet measured and planted.
Okay.
Step and slide.
All right. Any examples of anybody that does that particularly well?
Pretty much any good boxer that's can get out of the way of punches, and I don't want to say that to sound silly, but I mean Caleb Plant. Okay. I think Caleb Plant, he's very good at getting out of the way of punches. Okay. Punches that like he could dip a hook. He lead hooks. You can't really catch Caleb Plant with no lead hooks, and he can move. I think Caleb Plant is the best example of that.
All right, so let's move right along to step and hop. Again, benefits, challenges, or movement examples of who might do it well.
Well, step and hop. Again, it's a high risk, high reward. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that is because that hop takes you off balance.
Okay.
The stepping is good, but the hopping just takes you a little bit off balance. Again, the benefit of it is you close the distance. Maybe you see something, you catch your opponent, standing flat-footed, you catch them off balance, or you catch them looking, and you can close the distance on them and catch them with something, right? That's the high reward, but the high risk is if somebody catches you coming in. That's what, sometimes you get caught coming in. Two ways to get caught coming in is coming in hopping or coming in with your head down. Right. So you don't want to just be hopping in there and you put yourself within, your opponent's, range of motion, and then they can land something on you. So think about Ricky Hatton.
Okay.
When he was on it, he was on it. He was a hopper, especially when he get them hooks in. Okay. But I think when he got to the likes of a Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, fighters like that were able to time him because they knew his movement would include that hop, and they could catch him off balance, and they both caught him out, knocked him out cold. Okay. So it's very high risk, high reward type of style.
All right. So let's move right on to shuffling. Basic explanation with some of the benefits and maybe challenges of that movement, executing that movement.
Well, I think one of the benefits is you you change your look by changing your stance in terms of what you're giving the opponent. So when you do the shift, what happens is you start off in your whatever your stance is. Say you're a conventional stance and you throw in your jab and then you got your cross, but maybe when you come on a cross, you take your back foot and step it forward, and now that power hand is out in front. The key to that is if you shift in the right way, you still could be pushing that cross into a jab that could kind of create some distance, or you could just use it and still line up another cross. Shifters, it's a very subtle movement, and it looks like you're off balance, and it looks like you're stepping, and it looks like bad footwork. But Triple G is the guy that he brought that back. Okay. He brought shifting back to life. It's really like an old school move, like Rock Marciano. Another fighter that does that, modern day fighter. Shout out to Nova Scotia, Ryan Rozecki, out of Canada. He's a big shifter.
Okay.
Those guys enjoy that technique.
All right. So moving right along, before we kind of get out of here, of course, we're going to talk about upcoming fights, upcoming boxing matches, your expectations. So anything you wanted to kind of shine light on before we got out of here in terms of things coming up?
Hey, it's going to be rare not to have a UK, fight for us during the day. But, this is supposed to be the big one. And on the big one, it's nice to see, nice little sparkles, nice little gems. You're talking about Keyshawn Davis and his brother Kelvin Davis, right?
Night.
Virginia boys.
Shout out to Night.
Night, right? And here's what I can say. I like that DAZN. They got some of the young brothers on the card. They've been having Ray Savage Ford out of Jersey on their card, a few joints. They got this guy on there. They had Ammo Williams. Michael Williams on one of their cards too. So they keep the young brothers working on the DAZN cards. I like that. And these brothers will be on there in respective action on the night. So yeah, man, everybody look out for those guys, man.
All right, definitely. So that's definitely something we could look out for. So before we kind of get out of here and wrap up, is anything you wanted to kind of say to the people, or anybody you wanted to highlight locally or otherwise before we get out of here?
Hey, right now, man, I just want everybody, like I said, check out those young guys. Stay checking out Michael Williams Jr. He got something coming up real soon. Yeah, man. Khalil Coe out of Jersey City, New Jersey. Okay. I think he just signed a Matchroom, I believe, or I don't know who he signed, the Top Rank, whatever. Listen, we got another one, Jersey. Khalil Coe out of Jersey, I think this is big. I don't even remember what division he in, but Jersey has a lot of talent. A lot of athletes and different things come out of Jersey. Boxers, we don't see as much. So this is very exciting for me, man.
All right.
And let's say this too. Black boxers out of New Jersey.
All right, definitely.
Right? To make it to the national stage, man. I think that's important because, again, Marvin Hagler, although he was Newark born, Brockton, Massachusetts claimed him. You got Shakur. And then, you got the young brothers coming up, but this should be another one. So I want to add him. That's Khalil Coe out of Jersey City, New Jersey. Salute to him.
All right. Well, we always want to take time to kind of highlight the local fighters out here working hard, putting in the work. As usual, good conversation in terms of going over the articles, ABCs, going to school. We got some good predictions for the week coming up. So, of course, we want to thank everybody for listening. That's round 8 in the books. We're going to wait for you to take us out.
Hey, man, check me out on Instagram, King Amin of Essex 1. Posting on the fights, recap. Definitely keep tuned in with us because we'll keep coming round after round after round. We won't stop until we hear that bell.
There you go.